There's been a major incident within the internet space as Cloudflare, a major cybersecurity person group, major corporation that does that, ended up going down. This left ChatGPT, X, and other places losing their ability to actually function online. So this is another major incident on the internet where a decent amount of websites went down. After the other most recent one, the AWS outage, which ended up shutting down pretty much almost all the internet, as even though Cloudflare is big, AWS is bigger. But now, Cloudflare, this might actually be a malicious, where AWS, it was an internal issue. So, Cloudflare was down, and it said, Internet Infrastructure Provider reports unusual traffic spike before errors across networks. Now, why does this matter? Because like a type of a cyber attack is called a DDoS attack. Now, what happens in a DDoS attack is you have someone that has this malware with like a whole bunch of bots, and they install this malware on a computer and makes it spread throughout the internet. And what they do is then it eventually attaches to certain attaches to other people's computers, their emails and stuff like that, and then they will once they have enough devices and accounts affected, what they'll do is that they'll all of a sudden send a whole bunch of traffic to a website. Now, what that does is overload the website, and it causes it to not be able to run properly as they're trying to serve so many people. And that's what a DDoS attack is. And usually when you see unusual traffic, that's what they mean. There's an overload of traffic. Now, this might not be a DDoS attack, but it's a very, very good possibility, considering Cloudflare is the one of the major security providers and internet infrastructure people. Cloudflare actually controls 80% of the market for reverse proxy servers. Now, 20% of all websites on the internet use reverse proxy servers. And reverse proxy servers are one of the ways that we stop DDoS attacks. So what they do is that they, first of all, they redirect internet traffic. So they direct it to like main servers, not to the backend servers, the main servers, and they try to direct the internet traffic. Another thing that they do is that they also Another thing that they do is limit malicious activity on the internet. And one of the major things that they do is stopping DDoS attacks. And they're now down. And they might have had like a large enough DDoS attack where it actually is enough to influence Cloudflare. Now, that's some speculation of mine, but still, the fact that the DDoS, the Cloudflare, the corporation that controls a lot of the stuff for stopping these types of attacks, got attacked and shut down, shows that there's an increasing prevalence of these types of attacks and security issues. You can also see like there's an increasing amount of cyber infrastructure issues as the other shutdown from Amazon earlier this year that shut down pretty much all the internet. So we have an increasing amount of cyber issues and an increasing amount of cyber threats. And so let's scroll down here. They've actually recovered the attack now, and that's actually good, as it's been they fixed it and implemented things to solve it. Now, they're continuing to monitor and see if the breach is still effective or not, and hopefully that they actually do solve that, because when we have like that massive security issue and the threat of like those cyber attacks, we need Cloudflare to be there to actually, or another company that has these reverse proxy servers. We need a company like that helps with security and making sure these DDoS attacks are decreasing. Now, DDoS attacks have become increasingly popular over the last couple of years. So this is from Cloudflare themselves. They said high volumetric DDoS attacks skyrocketed skyrocketed. Cloudflare's 2025 Q2 DDoS threat report. Now, there's been as I said earlier, there's been a massive increase in DDoS attacks. And if you look down here, June was the busiest month for DDoS attacks in 2025 Q2, accounting for nearly 38% of all observed activities. And they target a lot of places. So here, and it was saying one notable one was a local pride parade. But yeah, another one they said they're targeting critical infrastructure that provide, and this is the more important one. And critical infrastructure is extremely important, especially because we rely so much on the internet. A lot of things go through the internet now. If you got a lot of websites that are important, a lot of medical stuff, servers for the government, because actually one of the biggest government server people is AWS, but that's another thing. But still, a lot of the stuff that's important for critical infrastructure goes through the internet now. So these attacks on critical infrastructure are increasing, and this is a very big threat to the U.S. as cybersecurity is a major issue. And especially with these basic DDoS attacks, it's kind of hard to stop them. It's hard to stop them if they get big enough. But these DDoS DDoS attacks are becoming more and more prevalent. And it says, the number of attacks in 2022 compared to 2024 in Q2 is up 44%. Now, if that continues, that's a very, very, very fast increase in the amount of attacks. Because if you increase 50% again and again, or 44% and again and again and again, next year it's going to double from what it was 2 years ago. And it's going to increase very, very fast. Now, I assume it's probably going to be like a logarithmic type curve, where we're probably in the logarithmic point where it's the fastest growth. But still, it's growing very, very fast. And it's hard to deal with these types of things. And we need to find ways to secure our cybersecurity within the U.S. Now, I don't know any laws that the government could pass for that, but what we do need to encourage is maybe putting some investments in there in cybersecurity. But how would you do that? So I don't want to spend a whole bunch of more money, but maybe we could, in terms of we could invest in higher security for government servers. And that might be a way for us to actually get a product. The government gets an actual product out of what's investing instead of just giving the money away. So we could do something like that where we have this giant contract. Well, not giant contracts, but contracts. We send them out to cybersecurity firms and basically asking them to produce a better cybersecurity apparatus for the U.S. And I think that's strongly needed, as again, so much infrastructure is reliant on this stuff. And if we don't have strong cybersecurity, it can actually compromise our national security. Because, as I said earlier, there's U.S. government servers and websites that have important information for a lot of people. Then you also have healthcare. And if they go down, people aren't able to actually get healthcare and the proper healthcare they need. So we need to find a way. We just need to basically increase cybersecurity. Additionally, another thing with this is that since there's a large increase, it might actually be a sign that there's actually a foreign nation trying to attack us. Now, I think it's very, very likely that Iran has ramped up their cyber attacks simply because, first, we just bombed them. We just bombed their nuclear facility. And one of the actual things that we did I can't remember what year it was, but one of the things that we previously did to slow down their nuclear research is to cyber attack them. So maybe they're trying to do what the U.S. has done against them and just reverse it on them. And I think that's very viable because if you notice the increase in the attacks was it's this year, and earlier this year is when we ended up bombing Iran. So it's around the same time when they shot up. So I think it's very viable that Iran is probably attacking us in a way. I also think probably China's teaming up with them and Russia because they are all allies and they're all major anti-U.S. U.S. players on the national stage. So they're probably also contributing to the cyber attacks. So another thing that the U.S. could do is actually invest in more of a what is it? Cyber invest more military resources into developing a cyber attack method and basically developing better hackers and better ways to actually attack our enemies, because that would actually be good for us if we have like better stuff with that, because then we can actually fight back and attack them. So maybe Trump created Space Force, or was it Trump that created Space Force? But we had Space Force. Maybe we could create a cyber force within a branch of government. So we could develop within the branch of government a cyber force that deals with cyber issues and cyber attacks and developing ways to actually attack our enemies through the internet. And that might actually be a good idea. The question is, would you want that in like an official department, or would you want it in a more secretive group? And I think that's more likely. You want it in a more secretive group, simply because first, hacking is more low key, and it's not. You don't have to have like a ton of resources for it. So you want it to be more low key, and it's harder to, but maybe develop the department for more of like a defensive reason, and basically saying more defensive type situations with our code. And the thing is, at that point, you could also team up with the actual hackers to see if you can get past the issues or bypass the security. So we could actually develop a department like that. And I think that would be a very good idea for the U.S. because we've had a lot of cyber issues recently. This increasing DDoS attacks, Cloudflare failing, AWS failing. And we just need to solve these cyber issues because they massively affect our economy. Because a lot of the stuff that runs through the U.S. now is run through the internet. You got Walmart, you got Amazon, you got pretty much any major company uses the internet in some way. And pretty much all the companies use internet. And without that security there, it's going to cause a massive economic decline if it's bad enough. If they basically shut down the entire internet. So maybe we do develop a department within the military to develop so similar to how we have Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Space Force, maybe and Coast Guard, maybe develop a cyber division. And I really like that idea actually, because then we could attack and defend. Attack and defend the U.S. With that department, and attack our foreign nations and defend the U.S. and our critical infrastructure. So I actually like that idea for a military purpose, because cyber is a very important thing for like the military now. So yeah, I actually think that's a good idea. And I just came up with that. So the question is, I don't know enough about cybersecurity for me to actually like develop a full-fledged plan, but that's where you actually need the experts there. So we would probably hire someone, maybe consult all of the major cybersecurity. You have Cloudflare here. You have what is it, McAfee? Can't remember. That's another big company, right? And just basically consult all the major and minor players within a cybersecurity industry. and basically consult with them, and then work with them to actually develop a better system. Also, the U.S. could build an internal thing too, to where you don't have to rely on all these other companies, and do more of an internal cybersecurity, so you don't have to rely on all these foreign and companies that are outside the government, because they could eventually leak what's going on. But we could still consult with them. So I actually like the idea. And another thing with like cybersecurity, currently the U.S. One major way hackers actually make money is selling data on like holes in code, and that's one of the major to like foreign governments, because that's one of the major ways. You know, it's one of the major things that if someone finds a hole in the code, that means you have like a whole bunch of leverage. As foreign nations are interested in attacking U.S. companies, U.S. is interested in attacking foreign companies and nations. So that's one of the other things we could do. We could eventually hire out a group of hackers that are basically just on government payroll, and they're actually trying to find vulnerabilities in foreign companies' internet and their websites. So that's probably a really good idea. And the thing is, the holy grail for like cybersecurity and the ultimate thing you would find is some way to hack into the nuclear codes. Now, I think the U.S. probably and the rest of the nations that have nuclear bombs are very secure in that set, and they don't have a lot of it actually on the internet in a way, or even on servers to begin with. So I think they're pretty secure, but if the U.S. could find a way to get hackers to hack into like China or Russia's nuclear codes, that would be great, especially for U.S. security, because then we realize if at that point, if we have control of, if we can access Russia's like nuclear stuff, then if they ever try to attack us, we could disable it like immediately, and that would save billions of lives. Same with China. Same with anyone that has nuclear. So it'd actually be a really good idea to do cyber, have a cyber department. And I hope Trump actually does that, but I don't think he ever campaigned on it. So, and maybe I should text my not text, email the congressperson for my state. Maybe mention that as an idea. Yeah, I could do that. Yeah, I should do that. But anyway, so that would be a good idea for like military uses for cybersecurity. But we actually do need to stop these DDoS attacks, and the best way I thought of it was, I was just basically saying, one way to do it is military, and say, and then try to build out our cyber infrastructure. The question is, at that point, is it just when you do like the military idea, like a department within the military, you do just, is it just for military purposes, or it can build out, like send some of the like weaker military models out to the public? And I think that's a good idea. Because then that actually helps with civilian infrastructure, and that would better the lives of the U.S. citizens. So yeah, I think that's a main solution, just to build a military department that would allow for like benefits of attacking our foreign adversaries online, protecting critical U.S. infrastructure, and then eventually, once we get we send out the also allow for more cooperation between other companies like this. So I think it would actually be a really good idea to just build a cyber department, and that might actually solve this issue. But in the short term, because that would take years to build, in the short term, can't really do much. We just gotta hope that the big companies that are actually reliant on the internet actually do try to invest as much as possible into cybersecurity. And I think they realize the massive cyber issues that we've had, because this is the second time this year, in the span of like It's not even just a year. It's been the span of like 2 months that this has happened. That a major cyber issue has happened. So I think companies are now actually trying to. They'll probably see the pattern on the. They'll see the pattern, and they'll actually try to invest. And I really hope they do, because if they don't, then we'll run into even more issues. And the best thing they can do in the short term, invest, and then that plan for like military uses for cybersecurity, it's that could help solve in the long term. But in the short term, we are pretty much reliant on companies to invest, and I just hope they do. And they most likely see the pattern on the wall. So hopefully we solve this issue and it doesn't affect us in the future, but it might.